Welcome to the Business Services Café by BSC, powered by BrandFizz. My name is Anita Zvestovic, and I will be your host for this recharging episode. We are here to bring the thriving business services sector closer to you with freshly brewed insights, also featuring the most influential leaders of the industry and bringing also some insights as espresso shots and also some sip and think advices for takeaway. In each episode, we sit down with the most influential leaders of the industry. So as today with Sándor Baja, who is the Managing Director at Czech, Hungary and Romanian Randstad. Very warm welcome in today's episode.
Thank you for having me.
Today's topic is a workforce topic, which is navigating talent, cost, and AI in the business services sector. So grab your favorite cup of coffee, settle in, and join the conversation as we are blending the most important insights regarding this important topic. Let's get started. Today's topic, what we are going to touch upon, is navigating talent, cost, and AI in the business services sector. Before we are going in the conversation more deeper, we would like to get to know you a little bit through your coffee habits. How do you typically drink your coffee?
I have to disappoint you because I don't like the taste of coffee. I like tea, if it's possible, green tea, but I like water very much. So there is no special type of fancy brand. I am very happy with the clean water in the office, for example, because I think it's very environmental friendly. You don't have to bring, and then this is very tasty. So I like water as well, plain water.
Okay. And, but I guess you also have some coffee meetings, let's say, also with your office members, with your colleagues, or also business service leaders, I guess. You have not only lunch meetings, but also coffee meetings. What are your such meetings recently about? Which topics?
I am meeting my team members weekly, and this is quite an easygoing meetings. We don't drink maybe coffee, but we are revising the topics and we are brainstorming together, so it's quite informal ones. With the business leaders, it's a little bit different, so they like to come to my office. You said it is not a business lunch, but I am ordering some food from the neighboring restaurant, which is quite a nice one, and we are grabbing some food together, and it's always very nice to discuss. And what we are talking about, it is much more to your question. There are a lot of changes in the market, and they are curious to see what are the trends, and of course, vice versa. I'm curious about each and every industry's trends and what they see for the future, of course.
And also a little bit of benchmarking, because I think you are like an information hub, not only through your researches, but also you oversee the entire market.
Listen, some people say that my telephone is... the value of my telephone is more than, for example, my car, because the telephone numbers, this is maybe true. Yeah, this is much more, like a friendly relationship, and I am happy to talk informally and formally as well in the associations about the major trends, and I admire a lot of people in this country who are having really the vista, how the English calls, so have really very nice helicopter views about the market.
Views, yeah. You've been closely observing the Hungarian labor market in the past, I don't know, minimum 15 years, since I also know you, and I got the chance also to work closer with Randstad, and talking about having like an enormous experience about the and knowledge about the market trends. What do you think that is a most important trend for the upcoming year that the BSC leaders has to pay attention to?
This is a very good question. I think the 15 years experience is not much as a value, because it's changing so quickly, the environment. And in our industry, in the business service sector, it is so interesting to see how the different companies are behaving, what is their industry background. So as a captive center, they are having different topics compared to the outsourced centers. So I don't say that we cannot see some trends or some patterns in the industry, but there are a lot of very company-specific issues or challenges or development trends.
When you would need to describe the mood of the market right now, maybe that's easier to capture, how would you call it? Is it optimistic, cautious, or something else, and why?
If we had this conversation 1 month ago, I would have said that it's an economy of two speeds. So some people were quite depressed or they were in the negative mood, and some companies were quite okay and very optimistic. I am saying that because of this Iranian war. It is one day to the other, it can turn upside down everything. So the companies who were closely related, for example, in the FMCG, they are uncertain as well because, the food supply due to the diesel or the fertilizer supply, now it can be completely different. Or, for example, I was very happy about the life sciences, the pharma industry. And I think this is the only still very positive, so they are hiring and they see some positive trends. Whereas, other industry like automotive or you can name all the other ones are really uncertain in these times.
And the BSC sector?
When I'm talking about industries, I'm talking about the BSC representative of these sectors, But I can tell you something. First of all, that the BSC is, of course, very much an export-oriented industry. So we are getting our fees in dollars or in euros. So when the forint is stable or even increasing, then, of course, it's a challenge for this industry because the costs are increasing in Hungary. So I do know that the inflation the last months is very, very low, 1.8%. But in general, we can say it's around 5%.
Yeah.
And then when you are increasing your costs like salaries or accommodation, then all of a sudden, of course, you are under a cost pressure, of course, and you need to look for efficiency.
Yeah.
So I think this industry is quite positive. Why? Because I'm pretty sure for the next 10 years minimum, Hungary and the Central Eastern European region will have convergence, meaning that we are having a cost advantage and we are having labor which is well qualified, and we are attracting a lot of functions and positions to our country. So I think we are having a positive mood overall, if you don't consider this Iranian war, which is of course very dramatic. But overall, I think the long-term tendency that we are in a good mood and we are moving ahead. And by the way, the BSC sector is one of the industries in Hungary who's hiring the most.
The most, yeah.
So increasing a lot of them.
Yeah. And now we are going toward the important insights we would like to deep dive together with you today, that you run several reports or researches and that serves the market with benchmark information. And one of your key trend report for 2026 shows there is growth expected still, so 44% of the companies still expect revenue growth, and in the same time 70% of companies see wage costs as the biggest challenge in the same time in the market. How should BSC leaders interpret growth and this challenge around the wages?
Again, I think this is a very important question. So I do see that there are a lot of companies growing. I see some new centers which are coming to Budapest, choosing Hungary. So I think this is encouraging. The second, of course, the cost of living, and mainly for the people who are working in these services, the food cost or the accommodation, so the flat prices are increasing very quickly. And of course, the employees are putting pressure on the management to increase the cost. On the other side, of course, there is a limit. And of course, the companies are having challenges worldwide. So how they can increase the salaries when the income of the total global company is not increasing. And these costs, again, because of the strong forint, of course, is increased as well in euros and dollars as well. But I would like to make a comment there because that's what I am having an experience 10 years now in Czechia and Romania. And I would like to report to you that when I started in Romania and in Czech 10 years ago, €1 was equal was 5 Romanian leis. And then the same 25 Czech crowns, 1 euro. And this exchange rate is the same today. So they managed to keep their currency very stable, and still they could attract more and more investors into the country. So I think this is really a bad approach what we were having, that decreasing all the time the value of our currency. So the good news for everybody who's listening to us, please go to Croatia this year. It will be cheaper for you because it is using euros. And of course, we had some salary increase. We come maybe back to this question later. And then the euro prices are not increasing so quickly, at least in Europe overall.
Yeah. You said that in like seeing overall the market, still the business service sector hiring is still like stable, or let's say like strong. But how did you see like the shift, how companies are expanding, like this mass recruitment or more specialized recruitment, and how do you see the trend?
We are seeing, of course, mass recruitments when there are some functions or some new centers are coming. So
the ramp-ups are happening, then it's mass recruitment.
The people we are looking for is changing, of course, completely. And instead of a lot of beginners, fresh grads, we are looking much more experienced people nowadays. And this is quite a challenge, by the way, because if you are a fresh grad, how can you get your experience if you don't have a possibility to get this experience? So my recommendation to the students, to get some experience during the curriculum already, and then to jump into the labor market. This is one. The second, as I said, we are having some challenges, both sides, AI, and of course the Indian or the Far East, like Philippines or Malaysian centers, which are having today a cost advantage. My advice or my thought is that an Indian employee would like to have a car, would like to travel the world. So this cost advantage is temporary, to my understanding, but still the challenge is there.
At the moment it's there, yeah. And when the workforce planning is happening, like how do you see, like is it in waves, or because I would say 10 years ago it was much more the case that mass recruitment happened, like much more bigger functions, but in today's BSC world, what we see that they are moving to Hungary also strategic functions, like, I don't know, an ESG department, or like the head of ESG is here, like digital hub, engineering hub. So it's like kind of like stretching outside of the transactional zone, and more like this maybe smaller amount of positions, but more strategic roles.
I see that completely. I think 10 years ago, you couldn't imagine that sales or marketing or legal or very high-level IT, the core business of the companies would move to Hungary. It's not the case today. So, and what is interesting as well for the Hungarian managers, or at least who are living in Budapest, that top functions are coming. So top managerial functions who are not supervising only the Budapest operation, but global functions are coming there. And of course, there is a cost advantage as well.
Yeah.
A Hungarian is not earning the same like in the city of London. That's clear. And then, of course, I think we deserve it as well. There are good experts in
brain power many fields and experience and so on.
Here. But I would like to mention to you something which is a little bit scary, but it is ongoing. It's not only functions we are talking about. In my company, for example, if somebody is resigning in any Western European country, she or he is replaced in Budapest.
Okay.
So it means that part of the teams are remote. So maybe there are some teams who are still in Amsterdam, in Madrid, or in Paris, but there is a Hungarian, or at least Budapest living team member who is joining the team.
Of that team.
Is part of that team, very true. So, and of course the question is how we can integrate the Hungarians into the team, how you can be promoted within the team, how you can get all the knowledge of the team. So, of course, there are some challenges, but this is definitely an ongoing trend.
Yeah, it's an ongoing trend. And also that person is not replaced in origin and in that position or in the original function, but also in the same time, they don't decide for moving the entire department, just couple of functions they decide to replace from Hungary, and then they work together like an over-country cooperation and remote.
I think the companies are very careful because, of course, in the given department in Western Europe, for example, there is an asset, there is a knowledge and know-how. Nobody would like to lose it.
Yeah.
But when, because of retirement or because of any reason, there is a change, then they get, instead of induction of the local people, they are making the induction for a Budapest living boy or girl.
Yeah. And we talked about the wages, but I think it would be interesting to hear from you that how this 70% of the Hungarian companies said in the recent research that you conducted that they are struggling with the wage challenge, and how can the business service center leaders keep a control of the cost, but in the same time keep the engagement and the retention up. So it's, I think, pretty hard to balance.
Yes or no? First of all, we are this industry is very export oriented, so the wages are usually higher than the Hungarian average. So overall, the attractivity can be interesting, and of course, the environment what they are providing, not just the beautiful offices, all the perks, home offices, this is much more available and accessible for the young and older talents as well. So I think the industry itself has a cost advantage. Now, where your company and maybe my company are getting into the picture, this is employer branding. So how we can teach to everybody, all the employees of this country, starting of course in the universities, that this is a very interesting job. This is not a call center or very basic transactional jobs, but you can make a very nice career. It's very interesting. You can use your languages. So international environment, exactly. So some companies are employing like 100 different nationalities. How super nice it is to work with all the nationalities of the world.
Like
almost,
prolongation of an Erasmus.
And Erasmus and exactly, and holiday all the year long. So, joke beside, this is really a big advantage.
So like a package itself.
Is there a competition among the centers? Yes, it is. Of course, but then you can really play with different benefits. And again, the employee value proposition is very, very important. So how to put together not only money, but all the other things, aspects.
And you said the home office, so I think we have to touch upon that the hybrid work seems to have stabilized in the past years. There are 2+3, 3+2, or different other models as well. Is this the final model?
I think so, yes. This is again a very big advantage for the business service sector because I see a lot of flexibility there. And yes, there are some companies who tried to limit or even completely delete this benefit. Then I can tell about two neighbors of mine, and one deleted this option, and the next day the other neighbor got 80 CVs from the first. And of course, these 80 CVs were not the worst CVs, and not the worst talents who applied. So I think it should be very carefully followed up. And of course, there are a lot of other questions as well. That do you have to live in Budapest to work for such a center? Or if I live at the Balaton, still can I work for you? And you can attract a bigger and wider scope of people. In our service center in Budapest, the HR manager lives in the Balaton, so, and she can commute the one time a week without any big problem, So I think there is an advantage. It will stay. Yes, that was shrinking the last couple of years. And I do understand in some cases like manufacturing or the retail, some part of the team should be there, to produce or to open the shop, to fill up the shelves. But in our industry, in the business service sector, it's not so necessary.
Not so necessary, especially when we talk about, and also at clients, we talk with colleagues, and they are saying we have anyhow overseas corporations, cross-country corporations. My colleagues are sitting in different other countries. Sometimes, when even if we go to the office and 3 of us are in the Budapest office, anyhow the others are somewhere else, and we have a team call sitting next to each other, and we are logging into the same call, which we could have done also from home. And I think this is a huge advantage for this sector.
Yeah, I think absolutely true. The other thing which I think still to be considered, that if, for example, you like the office, to work in the office because any reason, you have a small child at home or the neighbor is making some reconstruction work, then it is good to give the option,
Yes.
to give there, to go there and to work there. And vice versa, if I am living, at the Balaton and I cannot commute every day. So shortly, the long story, what I wanted to say that it should be really tailor-made to everyone.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the challenge is the space, the office space. Can you afford that everybody can come and have a seat there, or you can still optimize that?
Yeah.
But of course, this is a question of the real estate guys more.
And other hot topic, AI. So the AI adoption, according to the recent results, what you showcased, 30% of the companies already actively use it. And now we are not talking about for copywriting or whatever, but for business. How will this reshape the roles in the business service sector?
There is a big breakthrough. So exactly, it was 37% compared to 20-something%.
Yeah.
So 1 year to the other, it was a big step ahead.
Yeah.
This is one. The second, I think there are two tendencies. One, there are AI projects which are driven by the headquarters, where the companies, the global companies are spending millions of euros. And then, of course, the board and the owners, the management is very keen on return on investment. And maybe they are a little bit pushing too much, about efficiency, because they would like to see the cost going
immediately.
down. Immediately. And this is not so much stable. On the other side, when I'm talking to my friends and they say, come on, for 25 euros, half of my job is done by AI today, and then I can do something else. So how long does it take for the employer to recognize that half of the time this colleague is not focusing on the original job? So what I would like to say to you that it's very difficult to evaluate big projects, heavy projects, and small projects. It's, I think, ongoing. And what I see today, when I was trying to speak to some AI bots 2-3 years ago, it was really funny because they didn't understand anything. But come on, they are learning quickly and very fast. And when I'm talking to a bot, and then after 3 minutes, I recognize this is not a human voice. And then not far away from your office where we are making this podcast, autonomous cars are being tested, So I was thinking that...
You never imagine this can happen without human control. It can happen in Budapest.
It's such a big mess, in the traffic in Budapest.
Yeah.
It does happen. It's happening, So it's very curious. What will be the end stage? I think somebody, these big people who see the future, they don't see.
Seeing into the glass
bowl. They don't see, but I think everybody's maybe it is said always that it's overestimating the short term and underestimating the long term effects.
Yeah.
So I think with this demographical challenge of the world, and especially Europe and North America, I think AI is a must, so we need to help the people to do the jobs. My question, or what I don't understand, and I don't know, that we are very much focusing in Europe on work-life balance. We would like to work less. We are talking a lot about 4 days a week and so on. And then we are facing 1 million Indians who are graduated in engineering schools every year.
Yeah.
Or the Chinese who are extremely efficient and workaholic, and who are attacking us with 100 different car brands and all the other produce what they are producing. So how we can cope with this challenge? And I do understand that Europe is about services and not production anymore. I understand it.
Yeah,
but still, there is a challenge, So what will be the future? I don't know.
Yeah. But it's most probably upskilling the human resources, let's say, with the tools of AI. there is certain efficiency, definitely long term is coming, but how we are coping with the human aspects as well, like how people feel comfortable in this environment, especially when it's a central initiative that, okay, these are the AI tools you have to adopt in your job, how much they are fearing, okay, their job is going to be taken over, or how they are seeing rather like it's going to be like a, I don't know, like a next colleague, helping the job to be more efficiently done.
I have an opinion. So first of all, not the AI will take your job, but the colleague who knows AI. And I think in Hungary, we are not so bad because according to our survey, 49%, almost every second employee got already AI-related training. So the companies do know that it is coming, it's happening. You know, and on paper, everybody is for change. But when it is going about your work, we are seeing much more resistance. But, you know, when we go it step by step and you experience, today, for example, me, myself, I don't know how I was living without Gemini. You know, so I am asking every single question from Gemini, and I see my colleagues,
consulting.
the CV search, you know, how we were searching a different database 5 years ago, and now I don't say that it's perfect, but it's getting pretty good.
Pretty good. Great. Before we are summing up today's episode, there are some espresso shots which we would like to bring into this discussion. So short questions, pretty short answers. One word. What's the biggest workforce trend?
I think the biggest workforce trend is uncertainty and how to manage it.
AI, threat or opportunity?
I think it's an opportunity. Honestly, it's an opportunity. So definitely an opportunity. Don't miss the train. And it is as well funny, you know. So I remember to a big toy maker in Nyíregyháza, I don't want to name the brand, and I was coming and I was showing a Randstad box of their game, and everybody was laughing. So it's funny as well, but it's efficient as well. I like it.
Pretty great. Top priority for the HR leaders in the BSC sector in the upcoming year?
It's difficult to in one sentence, but again, I think the first is secure the core team, motivation, and then to be flexible around. You know, to have the problem solvers, the aces should be with you. And then, all the how to build the rest with a very flexible team as well.
And the future of work, flexible or structured?
Both.
Both?
I think there are, I'm giving you an example. So you wouldn't like to you go to your favorite shop and then it is said that I am flexible, so I am opening whenever I want, or you go to the doctor and they said I am flexible, so I am not serving you, so it should be quite structured. And then the same with the police. You call the police and they say, we are on home office and we don't come. But in the same times, I think there are a lot of flexibility, and I see myself, that when I am working and how I am working, this is a complete mixture of private and I am not happy to admit that sometimes when I have in the mood, I am working in the weekend, so to make an article in the newspapers, I cannot do that within the official working hours,
Summing up today's episode. If you could give one message or like a little bit in the imaginary backpack of the business service leaders to take away as an advice in the navigation, balancing the talent, the cost, the transformation, and maybe their own path also as a leader, what advice would you give?
Let me give you two. One is the first within your current company, be at the driving seat and be the one who is proactively shaping the future of your company. Because if somebody else is deciding, somewhere else is decided about, maybe this is not you are always the winner. And I do trust the capability of the Budapest centers. There are a lot of good people on the management in the workforce level as well. So please, think about the future and go with initiatives to your management, and then you are driving your company's future and your future as well. And the second small advice is just have a plan B.
Okay.
Have a plan B is, what you do if you don't have this job, and then, of course, no Randstad and my telephone number.
Of course. Yeah, it's a very good one. And I think it was great to drive through all those most important aspects where what everybody is talking about. Okay, there is growth, there are costs, there are value propositions, and there is the hybrid and the flexibility. There is also AI adoption. I think the 2026 most important topics. It was great to hear from you, your point of views and the benchmark and the very solid information you shared with us. Thank you so much for your contribution today. And I'm really hoping that this gives a great boost for the upcoming months in this year as well, and a little bit preparing for the next one. So that wraps up today's episode at the Business Services Café. A big thank you, Sándor, for participating and bringing the huge knowledge and the impact of Randstad on the plate of the business service leaders. If you enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe and you are also leaving a review, or you are just continuing listening to the conversations. Stay tuned for more expert insights and more innovations and transformations and trends. Thank you for tuning in today, and see you next time.